Why do you wake up already behind? It's a question most people avoid because they're afraid of the answer. But the truth is simple. Your morning doesn't begin with choice. It begins with reaction. The moment your eyes open, you're pulled into messages, notifications, worries, unfinished tasks, and the weight of a world that demands your attention before you've even had a chance to decide who you want to be. And without realizing it, you hand your day over to everything outside of you. Your morning is not a small moment. It is not a warm-up. It is not a casual transition from sleep into daily life. Your morning is the most decisive battleground of your entire day because the way you wake up determines the mindset from which you will live the next 16 hours. If you start in a reactive state, the world will push you from one urgency to the next. But if you start with intention, if you start with clarity, if you start with choice, you will lead your day instead of being led by it. I want you to remember this. Your first choice in the morning determines who leads your day, you or everything around you. Most people never make that choice. They roll out of bed and step straight into a stream of stimuli that instantly dictate their emotions and behavior. A notification shapes their mood. A schedule shapes their stress. A memory shapes their fear. A problem shapes their focus. From the very beginning of the day, they are reacting without taking a single moment to reclaim their center. Let me show you what this looks like. Imagine Mark. He wakes up, hears his phone buzz, and immediately grabs it. In 30 seconds, he's already reading an email that irritates him. In 2 minutes, he's scrolling through problems he didn't choose. Before he's even stood up, he's thinking about deadlines, expectations, and frustrations. His kids ask him a question, and he responds hurriedly. A small inconvenience happens, and he feels overwhelmed. He's rushing, irritated, scattered, and it's only been 10 minutes since he opened his eyes. Mark didn't choose his day chose him. This is the reality for millions of people. They enter the morning already consumed by what others want, what others say, what others expect. They lose themselves in reaction before they have the chance to anchor themselves in purpose, and then they wonder why they feel stressed, behind, disconnected, or out of control. They never stop to realize that the problem didn't start at noon or mid-afternoon or when the pressure hit. The problem began the moment they woke up without intention. But it doesn't have to be this way. Your mornings can become a place of strength, clarity, and preparation. A place where you decide your direction before the world tries to pull you off course. A place where you set the tone for proactivity, leadership, and inner alignment. You do not have to surrender the first hour of your day. You can reclaim it. And that is exactly what this message is about. If you've been living your mornings reactively, letting stress, urgency, or distraction dictate your life, this video will give you a system to change that completely. A system that empowers you to start every morning in control, centered, intentional, and proactive. If you're willing to take ownership of the first moments of your day, you will transform the entire rest of it. Stay with me. The shift begins now. When you begin the morning without intention, you don't simply lose a few minutes, you lose your foundation. The moment you wake up reactively, you surrender the leadership of your day. You let external forces shape your thoughts, your emotions, and your direction. And whether you notice it or not, that choice creates a ripple effect that touches every hour that follows. A reactive morning is not an isolated problem. It is the beginning of a reactive life. Think about what truly happens when you start your morning in chaos, distraction, or urgency. Stress doesn't just appear, it accumulates. It builds layer upon layer. Starting before you've even fully risen from your bed, you carry that stress into your conversations, your decisions, your work, and your relationships. Instead of moving with clarity and calm, you move with tension. Instead of choosing your priorities are chosen for you. Instead of acting from grounded intention, you're pushed by whatever feels urgent in the moment. And when your priorities are destroyed early, the entire day becomes about survival rather than progress. You spend your time putting out fires instead of creating meaning. You respond to demands instead of aligning with purpose. You feel as though life is happening to you, not through you. This is one of the most painful effects of a reactive morning. The subtle sense that your life belongs to everything and everyone except yourself. You feel like you're living for others, answering to forces you didn't choose, drifting through tasks that don't reflect who you want to become. Emotionally, the cost is even greater. When you begin the day reactively, your emotions take command of your decisions. A small frustration can dictate your mood. A single interruption can derail your focus. A moment of anxiety becomes the lens through which you see the entire day. Instead of leading your emotions, you are led by them. And when your emotional world is unstructured, everything feels heavier, harder, and more urgent than it truly is. There is a reason this happens, and it is rooted deep in human psychology. The brain wakes up searching for orientation, scanning for threats, checking for what needs attention. It defaults to the reactive because the reactive feels familiar. It seeks what's loud, fast, stimulating, or stressful because biologically, the brain interprets those signals as important. Without intention, your mind will always choose the reactive path, not because you're weak, but because you're untrained. This is the conditioning of survival, not the conditioning of leadership. And that conditioning shapes the language you use with yourself each morning, language that reinforces the very mindset you're trying to escape. You wake up and say, "I have to get up," as if rising is a burden instead of a choice. You whisper, "I have too much to do," as if your responsibilities own you instead of being tools for your growth. Or you think, "I can't handle this today." And with that single statement, you hand your strength over to fear before the day even begins. This language is subtle, but it is enslaving. It convinces you that you are reacting to your morning instead of shaping it. It convinces you that you are powerless in the face of the day ahead. And if you believe that, even for a moment, your behavior will follow that belief. I want you to remember something essential. If the morning controls you, the day owns you. You cannot live intentionally when your first moments are dictated by impulse, emotion, or external demand. You cannot lead your life if you begin it by following everything around you. And you cannot expect self-mastery if your morning is surrendered to reaction. This is not a condemnation, it is a gentle warning. Without a proactive ritual, without a moment of grounding, without a deliberate choice at the beginning of your day, you will drift. You will be pulled by the currents of urgency, noise, and expectation. You will lose yourself in the very first hour and spend the rest of the day trying to recover your center. But it doesn't have to be this way. The moment you choose to reclaim your morning, you begin the journey toward reclaiming your entire life. Every morning, before a single task is done or a single word is spoken, you face a quiet but profound choice. Will you begin your day from the inside or from the outside? Most people wake up and immediately step into a world of noise notifications, demands, expectations, pressures. Their first thoughts are reactions, not decisions. Their first actions are responses, not choices. They awaken, but they do not really arrive to their own life. The principle I want you to understand is simple, but it will transform the way you live. You choose the first hour, or the first hour chooses you. How you begin your morning determines who holds the authority over your day, your character or your impulses, your values or your circumstances. A reactive morning pulls you outward before you have anchored inward. A proactive morning is built from the inside out. To build an inside-out morning means beginning from your character rather than your stimuli. It means establishing your internal foundation before you engage with the external world. It means choosing intention over urgency, clarity over noise, leadership over reactivity. This is the hour when you decide what kind of person you will be today before the world decides for you. And the key to this transformation lies in the 4 unique human faculties that give you the power to be proactive even in the first moments after waking. First, self-awareness. This is your ability to observe your inner state, to recognize if you are anxious, tired, distracted, scattered, or calm. Most people skip this entirely. They wake up and immediately move without noticing the condition of their mind or spirit. But when you pause and honestly observe yourself, You gain the ability to choose rather than react. Self-awareness is the mirror that prevents you from being carried by unconscious emotion. Second, conscience. This is your moral compass, your internal guidance system that reminds you of who you want to be. When you start your day aligned with your values, your decisions become stable, your priorities become clear, and your energy becomes directed. Without this alignment, you drift. You spend your day responding to what is loud rather than what is meaningful. Third, imagination. This is the ability to mentally create the day before you physically live it. With imagination, you can visualize the most important conversations, the essential tasks, the person you want to be under stress or pressure. You can see the day not as a series of reactions, but as a mission. Imagination gives shape to intention and transforms the morning into a moment of design rather than default. Fourth, independent will. This is your capacity to act based on what matters, not on what is comfortable, convenient, or immediately rewarding. This is where character becomes behavior. This is where values become choices. This is where leadership becomes visible. When you practice independent will each morning, you train yourself to do what you should do even when you do not feel like doing it. And that, more than anything else, is what separates reactive lives from proactive ones. These four faculties are the tools you use to reclaim the first hour. They give you the power to be intentional instead of impulsive, centered instead of scattered, deliberate instead of reactive. Without them, the morning slips away, and with it, your leadership. You know this from experience. Imagine a simple conflict in your home, early in the morning, children arguing, a partner stressed, a misunderstanding. If you wake up reactive, that moment pulls you into impatience, frustration, or defensiveness. But if you begin from character, you respond with calm, clarity, and principle. The situation is the same, but the person facing it is different. Or consider waking up to an urgent message from work. If you haven't anchored inward, that urgency defines your entire emotional state within seconds. Your mind races, your heart tightens, and your sense of direction collapses. But if you start the morning with a chosen mindset, you bring order to the situation instead of letting the situation create disorder in you. Even something as common as checking your phone the moment you open your eyes can pull your day off course. In 30 seconds, you absorb information, stress, noise, and comparison before you've had a moment to think your own thoughts. That tiny decision can cost you the leadership of your entire morning. I want you to hear this clearly. Your leadership begins in the morning. If you do not choose who you are in the first hour, the world will choose for you. But when you begin your day from the inside out with awareness, conscience, imagination, and will you reclaim your power to lead yourself, and from that place of self-leadership, you begin to lead your life. There is a truth most people never confront, and it becomes the silent thief of their mornings. You will not feel like being proactive. Your mind will reach for comfort. Your emotions will reach for excuses. Your habits will reach for the familiar. If you depend on feeling ready before you act, you will live your entire life ruled by impulse. Proactivity is never born from emotion, it is born from decision. You must choose it before you feel it. To transform your morning, you must create what I call the proactive morning shift. It is a shift in mindset, a deliberate change in how you interpret the first moments of the day. It does not require hours of planning or extreme discipline. It requires 3 essential internal commitments, 3 shifts that reposition you from reaction to leadership. The first shift is from feelings to commitments. Most people wake up and immediately ask themselves how they feel. Am I tired? Am I stressed? Am I in the mood? And whatever the answer is, it becomes their direction. But your feelings do not have the authority to decide who you are. If you want to lead your life, your commitments must speak louder than your moods. A commitment-centered morning says, I will do what matters because it matters, not because I feel like it. This is the essence of independent will. When you honor your commitments before your feelings, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to see yourself as the kind of person who follows through. That identity becomes the foundation of proactivity. The second shift is from urgency to priority. A reactive morning is full of noise messages, reminders, notifications, tasks that feel immediate but are rarely important. Urgency demands your attention. Priority deserves it. When you shift your mindset, you begin the day by asking, what are the few things that truly matter? Not what is loud, not what is pressing, but what is meaningful. If you do not choose your priorities early, the world will choose them for you, and the world will always choose urgency over purpose. But when you start with clarity, your energy aligns with what matters most, and every action becomes more intentional. The third shift is from reaction to creation. A reactive morning responds to the world. A proactive morning shapes it. Creation does not begin with doing. It begins with thinking. You take a moment to breathe, to imagine, to set intention. You shape the day in your mind before you step into it with your actions. And when you adopt this mindset, even small choices take on transformative power. You move with purpose rather than pressure. You direct your time instead of chasing it. You build rather than react. These shifts may sound subtle, but their impact is profound. Proactivity is not created by grand gestures. It is formed in micro choices, small actions made in the first 5 minutes of your day. Consider something as simple as choosing not to check your phone for the first 15 minutes. That single decision protects your mind from entering a reactive spiral. Or taking 1 minute to identify the single most important thing you must accomplish. That choice grounds your focus. Or pausing long enough to breathe intentionally and choose your response to the day. That moment creates emotional stability. Each micro choice is a seed of leadership. These seemingly small decisions create momentum, emotional, mental, and even spiritual momentum. And as this momentum builds, your capacity to lead your day expands. Suddenly, you find yourself navigating challenges calmly, responding to stress with clarity, and acting with intention even when the world around you is chaotic. And here is the beautiful paradox. Discipline in the morning creates freedom later in the day. When you choose proactivity early, you free yourself from regret, from rushed decisions, from emotional turbulence. You free yourself from living in reaction. You create the space to live according to your values, not your circumstances. The discipline you apply in the morning becomes the liberty you experience in the afternoon. I want you to remember this phrase and let it settle deeply into your mind. Your life will not rise to your moods. It will rise to your morning choices. It is the quality of your decisions, not the quality of your emotions, that determines the direction of your life. When you choose proactivity before your feelings have a chance to decide for you, you take the first step toward becoming the leader of your day, your habits, your destiny. This is the turning point. This is where your mornings begin to transform one deliberate choice at a time. Proactivity is not an abstract idea. It is a practice. It is something you build not once, but every single morning. And the most effective way to begin transforming your mornings is by adopting a simple, structured, repeatable system. A system that honors your inner capacities, respects your values, and places you firmly in the leadership position of your own day. I call it the Covey morning system, a 5-step method designed to shift you from reaction to intention in just a few minutes. The first step is stillness first. Before you take in a single piece of information from the outside world, take 30 seconds to be present with yourself. Breathe slowly. Feel your mind settle. This moment of stillness is how you reclaim the space between stimulus and response, your greatest human freedom. Most people rush into motion the moment they wake, and in doing so, they lose access to this space. But if you begin with stillness, you begin with choice. You begin with clarity. You begin with leadership. The second step is name your state. You cannot lead what you have not acknowledged. Proactivity begins with self-awareness, the ability to recognize your emotional, mental, and physical condition before acting. Simply ask yourself, what is my starting point right now? Maybe you're anxious, tired, overwhelmed, calm, hopeful, or focused. Naming it removes its power. You are not controlled by it, you are observing it. And observation is the first step toward choosing your response instead of surrendering to your impulses. The third step is define one value for today. Your values are your internal compass, but most people never deliberately align with them in the morning. Choose one value, just one, that will guide your behavior today. It could be patience, clarity, service, courage, discipline, kindness, or focus. Hold that value for a moment. Let it settle. This is who you want to be today. This is the internal standard from which you will operate. When challenges arise, that value becomes your anchor, helping you respond from principle instead of emotion. The fourth step is commit to one proactive action in your circle of influence. This is the step where intention becomes behavior. Identify one small, deliberate action that you can take today, something meaningful, something within your control, something that strengthens your ability to lead yourself. It could be a conversation you initiate, a task you complete early, a boundary you set, or a moment of service you offer. The size of the action doesn't matter. Its intentionality does. When you choose one proactive act each morning, you set a tone of ownership that echoes throughout your entire day. The fifth step is verbal declaration. Words shape identity, and identity shapes behavior. Speak a deliberate phrase that programs your mindset for the day ahead. Let it be simple, clear, and rooted in responsibility. Something like, I lead my day. I choose my response. I act from purpose. When you say these words aloud, you are not reciting a slogan, you are issuing a command to your mind. You are reminding yourself of who you are and who you intend to be. This declaration activates your independent will and begins the process of turning intention into reality. These 5 steps form the core of the system, but there are complementary routines that reinforce the shift you're creating. A morning language audit helps you notice the reactive phrases you might habitually use. I have to, I can't, I'm already behind, and replace them with proactive language that reflects choice and freedom. A value review ritual allows you to reconnect with the principles that anchor your life. A small wins log trains your mind to recognize daily progress rather than daily pressure. And a personal mission reminder keeps you aligned with the deeper purpose behind your actions, preventing you from slipping into autopilot. When practiced consistently, these routines reshape your internal world. They create a morning filled with intention instead of noise, clarity instead of confusion, responsiveness instead of reactivity. You begin the day with self-command, which becomes the foundation for emotional stability, meaningful work, and stronger relationships throughout the day. This is the outcome of the Covey morning system. A morning where you lead yourself, a mind anchored in principle, and a life directed by purpose rather than circumstance. When you live this way, your morning becomes more than a routine. It becomes a declaration of who you are and who you are becoming. And from that place of self-leadership, the rest of your life begins to change. Every morning offers you a quiet stage, long before the world makes its demands. And on that stage, you choose consciously or unconsciously the identity you will live from that day. You are never merely waking up. You are shaping who you will be. Each sunrise invites you to lead yourself before you lead anything else. It is the daily moment when character is either strengthened or neglected, renewed or forgotten. This is why the first hour matters so deeply. It is not just the beginning of the day. It is the beginning of you. When you start each morning proactively, something remarkable begins to unfold. You become more steady, more intentional, more grounded. You discover clarity in situations that once overwhelmed you. You make decisions based on values rather than pressure. You find patience where there used to be irritation. You express strength where there used to be hesitation. As proactivity takes root in your mornings, it extends into your relationships, your work, your habits, your leadership, your entire way of being. You begin to experience the deep and quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are no longer living at the mercy of circumstance. You are directing your life from within. Imagine yourself weeks from now. You rise with calm instead of anxiety. You enter the day with purpose instead of confusion. You make choices anchored in your values, not your impulses. Your mind no longer races the moment you wake. It listens to you. You don't spend your morning chasing urgency. You spend it building direction. This is not an impossible ideal. This is the natural result of choosing proactivity again and again, starting with the very first moments of the day. But none of this happens by accident. It begins with a single internal decision, a decision only you can make. Today, you choose how your day begins. Today, you choose you. Not your stress, not the expectations of others, not your habits from yesterday. You choose to lead your morning, and by doing so, you choose to lead your life. The power is already within you, the power to pause, to think, to choose, to act from purpose. The moment you claim that power, your mornings reshape your future. Let this be your final affirmation for today, a reminder of your deepest freedom. Each morning between stimulus and response, I choose leadership. Say it slowly. Say it with intention. Say it until it becomes part of your identity. Because leadership is not something that begins in your career or your relationships. It begins in your first quiet decision of the day. And every time you choose leadership in the morning, you strengthen the character that will guide you through everything that follows. This journey doesn't end here. Proactivity is only the beginning. In the next chapter, we will go deeper into the habits that shape your days, the purpose that directs your life, and the principles that make you truly effective. Continue with me, and let's build a life led deliberately, one morning, one choice, one moment of leadership at a time.